Hello everyone, and welcome back to the Impact Factor. It's Alex again, here talking more Hearthstone, the Grand Tournament, the next big expansion. We know the release date, it's coming August 24th. I'm back with another video, well, because I can't not talk about Hearthstone cards. For all of you who don't know, again, I'm a candidate in biomedical sciences for a PhD, but I love to think, talk, and write about games. I've got a blog, a podcast, all the info is in the description, but you all are here to talk Hearthstone and the Grand Tournament cards. If you haven't seen already, I did a video where I talk about the 25 most powerful cards, or the cards that I think might have the biggest impact on the constructed metagame going forward. I'll link that in the description, or if I'm feeling bold, maybe I'll put it in an annotation. But I'm here today, well, mainly because I can't not talk more Hearthstone cards, but also because I really want to talk about the 10 cards that I overlooked, the 10 cards that are surprisingly powerful. I don't know. I saw some comments on my last video. I've been reading through a bunch of reviews, and there are a lot of cards that I really wanted to talk about. Obviously, I'd talk about all 132 if I had the time, but I've identified 10 more that I think might have an impact going forward that maybe I overlooked. So I'm going to give you the card, give you the reason why I overlooked it in the first place, and then go right into it. So we have our first card already up, and that card is Thunderbluff Valiant. It's a Shaman card, which there were a lot of last time, as I'm sure you remember. It's a 5 mana, 3/6, so the stats are okay, not great, kind of below the curve. And it reads Inspire, give your totems +2 attack. Now the first reason I'm going to give is why I overlooked it. So for 5 mana 3/6, you can get 4 mana 3/6s with, your frost element, your water elementals, or if you get the battle cry off, the new Twilight Guardian card. So the stats aren't all that great. And Inspire is a mechanic that has me really skeptical. Being able to do your hero power reliably isn't something that you've had wanted to do in the past, and certainly is being incentivized with this new Inspire mechanic. And then you need to make sure the creature lives till the next turn to be able to get the advantage of the Inspire, right? Because if he dies, then you can't get it, or you have to wait till turn 7 where you can cast your 2 mana hero power as well as this 5 mana creature, and a 7 mana 3/6 is awful. However, this effect is insanely powerful, and with 6 health, he's gonna live. So I'm thinking about it more, I'm like, well, there's a good chance Thunderbluff Valiant is gonna live. Shaman has a lot of tools now to fill the board with really powerful creatures. 6 health isn't something that's easily cleared on turn 5, regardless of, with usual board states in mind. And then that Inspire effect is so powerful. If you get it off once and you have even 1 or 2 totems on the board, that's really powerful. They have +2 attack forever. And you imagine if you get your hero power off more than once, this is insane. It turns your totems into crazy minion slayers. It's gonna allow you to trade up really easily. This card is a lot more powerful than I gave it credit for initially. I think, after seeing a review by Strife Crow where he had it as the most powerful card in this set, it really made me reevaluate the card. And so I think Thunderbluff Valiant, if there's this totem mid-range Tempo-y Shaman deck, which it almost certainly looks like it's going to be with Totem Golem, I talked about last time, or Tuskar Totemic, Thunderbluff Valiant certainly seems like it might fit into that deck. Can you imagine giving your Totem Golem +2 attack with this Inspire? Now it's a 5/4 that you paid 2 mana for, or 4 mana for with your hero power. Thunderbluff Valiant is very powerful. I overlooked it at first because I really wasn't sure about Inspire, but I think Shamans could make it work. And even if you just get this off once, it's great. And then if you don't get off at all, 5 mana 3/6 isn't the worst thing. So let's move on. These are mostly in order of which cards I think are more powerful, and towards the end are the ones that are very speculative. So the next card we have here is the Argent Horse Rider. So this is another card that's very easy to overlook. It's a 3 mana 2/1, so those stats are not great. For 3 mana, you're seeing a lot of 3/4s in this set, at minimum. But he's got a combination of keywords here that's really powerful. So it's Charge and Divine Shield. So if you could imagine a mix-up of any of Hearthstone's 2 keywords, these 2 are probably among the best. So Charge and Divine Shield, he can clear off the turn he's played any 2 health minion. He can get in damage easily. So I overlooked it because, I figured, a lot of decks have smaller creatures. Several classes have pings, like the Mage or the Druid or a Rogue. And so it'll be really easy to just hit it for once, you take 2 damage, and then clear it with the 1 health. And so maybe it's like I envisioned it as a 3 mana 2/2 with Charge, and that is not good. However, I think it's a really deceptively powerful tool for aggro. currently, like, aggro decks, very face-oriented ones, are playing Wolfrider, which is a 3-mana 3/1 charge. And while that 1 extra damage is nice, I always, at least from my opinion, when I'm playing aggro decks, it feels really bad to play Wolfrider, because you know with like the utmost certainty that Wolfrider is going to be dead next turn. And it sucks, just a 3-mana 3 damage, and that's not the most optimum kind of thing. So this, though, is going to require them to use extra resources to kill it, unless they have minions on the board. And so I think he's powerful. I've been using him in this Tavern Brawl, because he's in the Mage deck, I believe. And it's really powerful because he also lets you make nice trades. You can run one of your smaller minions into, into one of your opponents, and then do this extra 2 damage from the Argent Horse Rider. I really like that card. I think he's pretty deceptively powerful. I think he really might find a home in aggressive decks in this new meta, if aggressive decks are going to be viable, and I suspect they are. I'm interested. I overlooked it because its stats are not great for its cost, but really the combination of keywords, Charge and Divine Shield, is powerful. So think about it. Next one we have here is Fencing Coach. So this is a 3-mana 2/2. Again, maybe one of the reasons I overlooked it, the stats for the mana cost are not great. But its battle cry reads, the next time you use your hero power, it costs 2 less. So aside from the stat inequity that I talked about earlier, I also overlooked this card initially because while its effect is powerful, it's just a 2-mana discount. So you can almost imagine him as a 1-mana 2/2, which is good, but you already have 1-mana 2/3s with Zombie Chow that, the effect, its negative effect is mostly negligible. I see a lot of talk, though, about Fencing Coach being used in Inspire decks, and like I said with Thunderbluff Valiant, one of the main issues with Inspire is you feel like you either have to wait till the turn where you can play the card and then your hero power on the same turn, which makes all of the cards quite bad. A 7-mana 3/6 with the Thunderbluff Valiant is terrible. But this really allows you to set yourself up for that ideal turn. And so you could play a Fencing Coach, have your hero power cost 2 less, and that is like the effect of Dragon Consort. It stays at costing 0 until you use your hero power next. So you can play him and set yourself up, and then play your very powerful Inspire minions the next turn or whatever turn you get them, and then trigger its Inspire on the same turn. And say if you can play this card and say Thunderbluff Valiant on turn 5, that is a crazy powerful card. And there's another card that's coming up where Fencing Coach combining with that would make it insane. So again, I first overlooked it. The stats aren't that great. I really am still skeptical about Inspire decks being a powerful thing moving forward. I'd like to be wrong. I'd love to see new kinds of decks emerge from this expansion, and I'm sure they will. But Fencing Coach is one that had me on the fence, but now I'm more convinced. If there's going to be an Inspire deck that works, or a deck that takes advantage of these slower Inspire control cards, Fencing Coach is a really easy card to slot in. And he's also not bad. He's a 2/2. He can help get you some even trades, and his effect is a battle cry, right? That's important. So he goes off, his effect is there, and even if he dies the next turn, you already have that free hero power the next time you use it. So he's good. Speaking of mechanic I'm skeptical of, this is the main reason I didn't include this card before. So this card here is Master Jouster. He's a 6-mana 5/6, and his battle cry reads, Joust, like I talked about last time. If you win the Joust, he gains Taunt and Divine Shield. So at first, and still, I'm quite skeptical about Joust being a legitimate mechanic. As you all know, if any of you played the Tavern Brawl, the Hunter deck is based around a lot of Joust cards, and you lose quite a bit of Jousts, and even the ones you tie, you lose. You have to win. And so, like, getting that effect off consistently is really hard to guarantee, and especially if the meta slows down like people anticipate, you're not going to be winning a lot of these Jousts if you're facing another control deck. They're also going to have big minion cards. So that's why I was mainly skeptical about this card, because I really don't think still that Joust is that good. However, if Joust does become good, and you have a lot of really viable aggro decks, and so you can maybe 50% of the time you play control and 50% of the time you play against aggro, he's going to be good in 50% of those matches, because if you win the Joust, he's a bigger Sunwalker. And I know what you're saying, Sunwalker is a guaranteed 6-mana 4/5 Divine Shield Taunt. But if you can give yourself a pretty good chance of getting a 5-mana, a 5/6 with Divine Shield and Taunt, that's pretty darn powerful. It's really going to help stop any aggression. It's a big body on the board. I think he's going to fit in pretty nicely to these Joust decks. He's got a high cost. He's got a very powerful effect. So if Joust is a thing, I think he can make his way in there. I think a lot of people are sleeping on Master Jouster. Again, I saw a couple pros talking about it, including Strife Crow. I think he's good, but I overlooked him at least at first, or missed it at least at first, because I was really still skeptical about Joust. But we'll see. Polymorph Boar is the next card. And this card is easy to overlook, right? It's a 3 mana transform a minion into a 4/2 boar with charge. And right, so for 1 more mana, you can transform a creature into a 1/1 sheep, completely removing it as a threat. And so I'm like, well, why do you need another one of these? Sure, it's 1 mana less, but then they're getting a Huffer. They're getting a Summon Huffer, 4/2 charge. But the thing is, there's a lot of versatility with this. That 1 less mana opens up, playing it earlier, or playing it in addition with other cards, playing it, say, with a 6 or even a 7 mana card on the same turn. But there's also versatility. With Polymorph, you're almost never going to polymorph, the traditional Polymorph sheep, I guess you will. You're never really going to use it on one of your own minions. But this one, it opens a lot of possibilities. Say if you have like 1/1s or small tokens made from something like a Violet Teacher, you could transform this into a 4/2 boar, so that gives you a lot of value. Or, let's say your opponent is very close to being dead. You could attack with your big minion, and that puts them down to 4, and you could Polymorph Boar your own creature, which now has charge, and you can deal the extra 4 damage. So in some cases, it'll be deal 4 damage for 3 mana, which isn't bad. Some cases, it'll be transform your own weak creature into a 4/2 with charge, which is pretty good. And then, still, if your opponent plays some huge threat, like a Dr. Boom, or a Ragnaros, or a Varian Wrenn, or something like that, 2 health is pretty easy to deal with, especially as a mage, when you consider your hero power. And so, transforming their big scary threat into a 4/2 with charge, especially since you're doing it on your own turn, they're not going to get an attack, you can clear it off pretty easily. So it still has a lot of that versatility that Polymorph Sheep has. So at least initially I was skeptical, because I really only thought about it in the context of, your opponent's minions, and I still don't think it's crazy powerful, but it's certainly, I think, worth trying in mage decks. So Confessor Palatrus, this is for user Tetris for me. He mentioned in my last video I didn't mention enough priest cards. I still stand by that. I think the priest cards are pretty weak in this set. Yes, Tetris for me, even Flashio. But I think Confessor Palatrus is one to consider. Again, we're talking about Inspire mechanics here. So she's a 7 mana 5/4. Ooh, terrible stats. But her Inspire is crazy. Her Inspire says, summon a random legendary minion. And so, I first overlooked her and didn't include her in my last video, because a 7 mana 5/4, you bet your butt she's dying the turn that she's played. You play her and then she's dead. Yeah, I'm sure, it's a priest, so you're gonna have some cases where you have really controlled the board and they somehow can't do 4 damage. But she dies to swipe, she dies to any kind of 4 damage spell, so your opponents don't even need a lot of minions on the board to clear her off. And so I'm like, sure, her effect is powerful, but what, you have to wait till turn 9? And then so she's a 9 mana 5/4, summon another random legendary, and that random effect, the average cost of a legendary is about 5 mana, so that is a good effect for 9 mana 5/4 and another 5 cost creature. But still, I thought, like, man, that's a little too slow. I'm not so sure. Again, I was skeptical of Inspire. But when you consider a card that I just talked about, Fencing Coach, as well as other opportunities if this meta slows down, I think Confessor Palatrus could find its way into a very control-y, kind of Inspire-based, or at least Inspire-conscious control priest deck. Because if you, say, set yourself up by playing a Fencing Coach the turn before, and then you drop Confessor on turn 7, and then you heal one of your creatures, or you heal yourself, and then you have 2 legendary minions on the board, that's really powerful. Again, I'm very skeptical. All the cards in this video I'm skeptical about, but I think that there could be a home for Confessor. This is for you, user Tetris for me. Here's another priest card. I'm skeptical about her, but I mean, if you set her up with a Fencing Coach, that could be really good. Next card here is King's Elic. Another hunter card, after my own heart. This is a 2 mana 3/2 beast. It's important. Its battle cry is Joust. If you win the Joust, draw that creature you revealed. And so at first I didn't include this because whatever, it's a 2 mana 3/2. You see those all the time now. It's good stats for sure, but you see them. It's a beast. A lot of mid-range hunter decks are already playing Creeper because it has that stickiness, and that is also a beast. But I think about this more, King's Elic fits into a lot of different decks. And me honestly experimenting with it in the Tavern Brawl mode this week has really changed my mind on it, because it's in the Hunter deck, and it's probably one of the best cards in the Hunter deck. So if you win a Joust, you're already revealing a powerful creature. And now if you win that, you get to draw that in your hand. So he can help you with your mana curve. He can draw you powerful threats that you know you want. You know, if it just said 2 mana 3/2 Battlecry, draw a card, that would be really powerful. So sure, it's contingent upon winning the Joust, and it seems like a lot of Hunter decks aren't designed to win the Joust, but you can imagine a world where this does win the Joust. Like if you have even a mid-range deck, sure, worst case scenario, you're having a 2 mana 3/2 Beast, so that's not bad at all. It's good for the stats. It's going to enable your Beast synergies like your Houndmasters or your kill commands, and so that's fine on its own. But then if you get the added bonus of, say, drawing a high main, so you know you have it in your hand, or drawing, any of its powerful beasts, that's gonna be cool. Further, if there is a Hunter control deck, you can imagine you fill a lot of your low mana slots with these spells, and Animal Companion is a spell, folks. Don't remember, Summon Huffer is a spell, and so you could fill your deck with creatures that cost 5 or more, or at least some 4 or more, and so there's a good chance that you might win the Joust there, and so it might be an easy way to get a board early, get a minion on the board early, make sure you can kind of not just die to early aggression, and then start drawing your powerful threats. So I think there's a lot of versatility in King's Alec, and honestly, I mean, this is a card that I really slept on and potentially forgot about. So be excited. I know I'm gonna try and make a deck to make this work. I think I'm gonna try both a mid-range Beast Hunter as well as a Control Hunter. So both using this card. More Hunter cards, we have Dreadscale. So this is the Hunter Legendaries, which if you follow my Twitter, I wasn't so thrilled about. It's a 3 mana 4/2. It's also a beast. Yeah, that's important. And it reads, at the end of your turn, deal 1 damage to all their minions. So I'm skeptical for this card for a couple of reasons. It's clearly designed for a Control Hunter deck that does not exist, right? If you're playing this in your Face Hunter, you're doing something wrong. It's gonna kill all your creatures. If you're playing it in mid-range, I don't think it provides that much advantage because mid-range Hunter is already so good at controlling the board. You have your Hunted Creepers, you've got your Knife Juggler into Unleash the Hounds, so I'm not sure why you needed Dreadscale. But when you start considering it in a deck that's maybe even a slightly slower than mid-range Hunter, maybe a kind of more mid-range deck or slower deck, and then certainly a control deck, this finds a home. And so even considering that though, I was like, well, it's a 3 mana 4/2, and it whirlwinds the board, but then it has 2 health, so it's gonna just die next turn to some sort of 2 attack or 3 attack creature. But one thing I overlooked is, if you're getting this out early, say on turn 3, your opponent is probably not gonna have a bunch of creatures out on the board. And a lot of those 2 attack creatures that they play are gonna have 1 health or less. And so I think this enables you to kind of clear the board early, stop that early aggression. He gives you a decent body, he enables beast synergy, and I think there's a decent chance at least he'll live a turn. But even if he doesn't, you can clear off a lot of your enemy's minions for just 3 mana. It gives you another good option that you don't have to use Unleash to unleash the Hounds to clear a bunch of 1/1s. So I'm excited. I think that there might be a home for Dreadscale. Certainly, there's going to be a home for Dreadscale over Acid Maul, which I think is terrible. Gosh, 7 mana 4/2. I don't know what Blizzard was thinking. But his effect is very powerful. He could enable earlier control, and certainly he wouldn't hurt to drop turn 3 after you drop your King's Alec, just to try and control the early board while you're waiting for your High Mains and your Ragnaros and whatever else, and your Dr. Booms, or whatever else you want to include. Next is Champion Sarad, and we're moving more towards the increasingly skeptical territory here. It's a 5 mana 4/5, not bad. The cost would be 4, you would expect, if it were on curve or going by my vanilla test. And it's Inspire, add a random spell to your hand. So this is another card that the Tavern Brawl really changed my mind on. Again, Inspire, I don't need to beat a horse to death here. I'm skeptical about Inspire, so I wasn't sure if he would be seed. But adding a random spell is really powerful, and decks that are going to enable you to Inspire on the same turn, usually spells are pretty good, right? Because there are no neutral spells. And so each spell has its own kind of power level that's equal, because that's balanced out by, well, it's only in 1 class. And I've had a lot of success with getting pretty powerful spells with Sarad in the Tavern Brawl, because he's in the Mage deck. And so again, I think if there's some sort of Inspire deck, especially if you're running Fencing Coach, turn 5 having a 4/5 and a random spell is pretty good. And then with 5 health, that's like kind of right past the flash point. You see, at 4 health, every hit, it dies right away. 5 health, there's a chance it's not gonna die. So not much more to say about this. I think it could fit into an Inspire-based deck, especially if you're running something like Fencing Coach. I'm skeptical because it's not super powerful, but I'd be happy to be wrong about it. In my last review, some of you might have noticed that even though I talked about all the classes, there's a certain class missing, Warlock. The Warlock cards in this set are strange. They almost feel like they're from another set where like the discard mechanic is actually used in new ways. But I'm like, alright, I should include a Warlock card. So honestly, that's the main reason Wilfred Fizzle is being included here. He's a 6 mana 4/4. Again, 4 mana, or 4 health, Flashpoint. He's gonna die. 6 cost, ooh, that's bad. But his effect, again, is very powerful. It seems a lot of these cards in the set, Blizzard is balancing by saying, we'll give you a very powerful effect on a very fragile body, and see if you can find ways to go about protecting that. And so cards you draw from your hero power cost 0. That's crazy. Again, a lot of the same stuff I've said about Confessor Palatrus and even Nexus Champion Sarad applies here. You're gonna want him to live, so that's either playing him and get 1 activation off of him at least. So that's either playing him on turn 8, so an 8 mana 4/4, that's rough, or you're gonna want to combo it with Fencing Coach or something else. So again, I think if maybe Confessor Palatrus, or if Sarad can find a home, or Wilfred will find a home, there is a Control Warlock deck that's been going around. It kind of uses some dragons. So there is a chance at 4 health, if you clear the board and then drop him, he might live. I'm very skeptical about Wilfred Fizzle, but his effect is so powerful. Maybe I overlooked it? Who knows?